fellow film fans, thanks for tuning in. My name is Mercy and this is the Funny Pajamas YouTube channel. Now the latest episode 3 of WandaVision debuted on Disney Plus recently. So this is my spoiler heavy, okay? Warning straight out, spoiler heavy review and thoughts of this episode. So if you haven't checked out this episode, please do check it out. Come back here and let's have a quick nice discussion. So we head on straight out. It's now the 70s. This episode is set in the settings of the 70s sitcoms, and it leans heavily on the Brady Bunch feel. I thought the aesthetics of the home in which Wanda and Vision stay also leans heavily design-wise on the house of the Brady Bunch. Now I will admit that the 50s, 60s, 70s were a bit before my time. As such, I wasn't like an avid viewer of sitcoms of that time. I did enjoy them for what they were. Watched a few episodes here and there. I had fun. And like I said, I did enjoy the first 2 episodes for what they were. Now this episode sort of gets more into the meat of matter, and as such, I was more appreciative of this. Thinking back, I kind of wondered, would it have been better if they had dropped the first 3 episodes? Because I know a couple of people were like turned off with the first 2 episodes. Not exactly everyone's cup of tea. Very a vast departure from the general style of the MCU, and a large step with no introduction into this particular show. So it did leave a couple of fans disoriented, and it may have lost a few people. I do wonder if they had let it out to the layman, or that is the public, all 3 episodes. I know critics were given 3 episodes a little in advance, but I do feel if they may have let out the 3 episodes in a chunk, debuted them together, it could have kept a couple of more people hooked. Anyway, I did enjoy the first 2 episodes for what they were, and I will say I enjoyed this episode a lot more than the first 2. Now this episode, we found at the end of the previous episode that Wanda suddenly, she just wishes it with a snap of a finger and she's pregnant. Now this, we pick up here with the doctor's visiting, and he's come to check out Wanda, and he's sort of asking her, what are you like, 4 months along? And she's like, they're like, ha ha ha, they hedge around, because for them it kind of happened overnight. You like, the previous day we're not pregnant, today you're pregnant. So they kind of hedge around it and they don't want to admit it. So the doctor's like, don't worry, you're 4 months along, you have a healthy pregnancy and stuff. So it's now Wanda and Vision trying to cope with this and trying to prepare for the pregnancy, for the child or children that they are going to have. Now they are setting up the crib, and Vision is building a swing and stuff like that, and Wanda is taking care of the nursery and stuff. So basically it revolves a lot around this. So the doctor comes, checks up Wanda, says she's healthy and good to go. But we see soon after he leaves, 1 minute she's 4 months pregnant. Next, a couple of minutes later, she's 6 months pregnant. And then she's almost, she's having contractions. So it goes within a few minutes, it's advancing itself. She seems to be advancing in her pregnancy. So while she undergoes the contractions, she sort of loses control, and she's setting off the electricity, and all the appliances are going haywire and crazy. And, and she's setting off all the appliances in her neighbors' places also. And then, meanwhile, Vision is reading books and trying to find, learn all he can about pregnancies and how to handle it and all that stuff. And they're having a fun time. There are some fun moments, like really good laughs and stuff, and how these two unlikely parents are trying to cope with it, particularly Vision. Vision is like, he's really good in this. Like I said before, Paul Bettany and Elizabeth Olsen do an amazing job in this, and I thought aesthetically the creators of the show have really brought out the 70s feel. They hit the nail of the feel, the vibe totally head on, and I think they've done it well. Now as we progress, Wanda's water breaks, and then sort of like to show that off, sort of the pipes break and there's water all over the place, and then it's a whole mess. Wanda's losing control. I mean, she's not losing control. She's as her contractions come, she's going haywire with her magic. And in comes Geraldine, and Geraldine, we met her in the previous episode. She's playing she's the character who's going to be, according to this, she's going to be Monica Rambeau. So Tiana Paris is the actress playing this, and she's introduced as Geraldine in the previous episode. See, she comes in and she's just chatting away, telling the story, and Wanda's trying to hide that she's pregnant. Because how is she going to explain that she wasn't pregnant yesterday and all of a sudden she's like 8 months pregnant now? So she's trying trying different tactics to hide her pregnancy. And just while Geraldine is telling her story and stuff, she's telling the story of how she got a job in a temporary job and stuff. And while she's narrating, suddenly Wanda goes into labor and Vision's gone out to call the doctor. So it's when Vision has gone out to call the doctor that Geraldine comes, and Wanda's trying to cope, and meanwhile, because her powers are going haywire, they've like painted this nursery and they've got this little stock, and the stock comes alive, and she's trying to hide the fact that there's a living stock in the house, from Geraldine. And there are laughs and kind of hysterical stuff that goes on. Then suddenly Wanda goes into labor, and when she goes into labor, Geraldine is like, everything's going crazy, the pictures are spinning, the lights are they're going off and on, there's short circuiting everywhere. And then finally Geraldine is like, okay, I don't know what's going on, there's got to be a logical explanation to it. And anyway, she's eventually helps Wanda give birth, and Wanda gives birth to the first baby, and we see previously that Wanda and Vision are having like an argument, like, no, we'll name our kid Tommy, no, we'll name our kid Billy, and then the first baby is born, and Vision, just as the first baby is born, and Geraldine hands it over to Wanda, Vision enters with the doctor. Now the doctor was supposed to have been going off on a vacation, because he's like, you're 4 months along, only there's a good 5 months for your for the delivery, so I'm going on vacation. But while he's going, Vision just goes in his super speed, picks him up and just brings him back. At this point, you're kind of like, Vision is like, he doesn't care, he's just bothered about his baby, so he's not bothered about showing off his powers that much. So he brings the doctor, and then just as there's a sweet moment between Wanda and Vision, and they're holding their baby, the first child, and Vision is like, Tommy, this is little Tommy, and just as that happens, Wanda is like, she screams, and she's gonna have another baby, and then the second baby is delivered, and they eventually name 2 healthy baby boys. They name them Tommy and Billy. Now this is when then the doctor is like, you've got very healthy kids and all, and he's about to leave, and as he's leaving, Vision sees him out and he says, thank you, doctor, can you like keep this within us, we want to keep it within the family, sort of, and just as he's doing that, his outdoor neighbors, previously when he comes out, his neighbor Herb is sort of like trimming the hedges, and then he's just sort of like doing a repetitive motion, and while he's doing it, the trimmer's saw sort of, he starts cutting through the wall, the fencing wall, and it's like he doesn't seem to even notice. It's like he's going through a daily motion. And once again, that eerie music that we had a few glimpses of in the first 2 episodes comes, and you get an idea that Vision is like, there's something wrong here, it's not right, why is he doing that? And anyway, he goes back. Now when he brings the doctor out again and the doctor leaves, the doctor says just this one sentence. He's like, I don't think I'll be able to go on my vacation, because I don't think we'll be able to, anyone can ever escape Westview. Westview being the town where they are living. And that's when Vision sort of thinks, is there something behind this? How can he not escape Westview? And just as something seems to, the facial expressions of Paul Bettany, how he seems to be, there's something, elusive that he's trying to capture. There's something not right here. He's trying to, figure it out. And just as he does that, Agnes and Herb are talking. The 2 neighbors, they're talking together. They're whispering amongst each other, and they ask him, is Geraldine inside, And Vision's like, why? Yeah, she's inside. What's the big deal? So they're like, and they're sort of, they're suspicious of Geraldine. And they tell him like, she doesn't have a family or a home or anything as such. Who is she? What does she do? Why is she here? They start putting doubts in Vision's mind. And Vision's like, why are they doubting her so much? And then he does think about it. Yes, she doesn't have much of a family or a home or anything. And you begin to see that moment that something's not right here. And then while they're talking, Herb, the neighbor who was cutting the plants, he says, she's here because we're all, and just as he wants to say it, and just as he's about to say it, Agnes, that is played by Catherine Hahn, she stops him. She's like, no, you're not supposed to. You can't tell him. They're not. She doesn't belong here. She's not supposed to. And they tell Vision she doesn't belong here. And Vision's like, he's puzzled. Why are they acting so weirdly towards Geraldine? And meanwhile, while this conversation is going on, there's a conversation side by side going on between Wanda and Geraldine. And they sort of cut between these two conversations. And after Wanda and Geraldine put the two twins into their crib, Wanda is sort of like, she switches from sitcom Wanda to, like MCU Wanda sort of. And she's like, I was also a twin. I had a brother, a twin brother. His name was Pietro. And then it's at that time, Geraldine is like, your brother, he was killed by Ultron, wasn't he? And this is our first real connection that we see, first concrete connection we see between, the world that WandaVision is based in and the MCU world that we have come to know. This is the first time they bring in elements from that. Besides the sword, this is like the first concrete time that they actually mention it in the show itself. And Wanda snaps. She's like, what are you talking about? Who are you? Who are you? What are you doing here? How do you do that, And she begins to get that threatening aura sort of thing around her. And Geraldine is like, she's confused. She herself doesn't seem to be knowing what exactly. And she backs off. She's a little scared. And Wanda is sort of like, she's advancing on her, asking, how do you know? What are you? Who are you? What are you doing here, And all the while they're cutting between this scene, this conversation that Wanda and Geraldine are having, and the conversation between Vision and the neighbors. So that brought out the effect really well. And Vision is like, okay, they're acting weird, and he goes back in. And when he goes back into the house, Geraldine's not there. And he asks, where's Geraldine? And Wanda's like, she had to leave, She just calmly says she had to leave, and she goes back to her kids. And that's when, cut to the future, we see the aspect ratio sort of, it changes. First is a aspect ratio in which most sitcoms were shot. And then it changes, and we see like the whole color schemes and the filters seem to change in the shots. And there's this, we see the sign for the town of Westview, and it's like old and dilapidated, and it's more realistic. The aspect ratio all changes to show that this is the actual world. And suddenly there's this object that comes flying through what seems to be some sort of a force field or shield or bubble sort of thing, a portal sort of thing. She comes flying through that, and she gets knocked onto the ground, and she gets rolled, and that's Geraldine. And while she's lying there, stunned and possibly pretty badly hurt, there are like all these military personnel or what seem to be military personnel or some high-ranking, organization personnel. They are all running to her. So there's a helicopter, and there are jeeps and stuff, and they all come surrounding her, and they cut it off at that. Now there's also, while the original conversation was going on between Geraldine and Wanda does notice that Geraldine is wearing this, this pendant. She's wearing a pendant on her chain, and that's got the symbol of sword. Okay, so this once again ties back. We saw in the previous episode the beekeeper that comes out of the manhole. He also is wearing the symbol of sword. And the red and yellow helicopter, that toy that Wanda finds, that also has sword symbol. And I love how they've interspersed these things. And had they stuck to the same thing that they had stuck the last two episodes, it would have sort of lost me a bit. But the way they added that intrigue, that mystery, that really hooks you on and keeps you wanting to watch more. Last time we got a few hints. This time we got more meat to matter. We got more ideas like, what is going on here? Who has someone done this to Wanda, or is Wanda doing this to herself? Also comes into question a lot, like Vision. I mean, we know in the world of the MCU, Vision is dead, right? So this is not really Vision. So is he like the real, is he just a construct of her, of her world? Is he real? Is he like, is it someone else? Or, you come to think of that, because the MCU Vision acts very differently from the WandaVision Vision. So, alliteration. Anyway, he acts very differently from the WandaVision Vision that we get, that very chirpy sitcomish Vision. So that's kind of saying that Vision's probably just a construct, that he's in in her reality probably really dead still. So it does hook us on, it keeps us wanting more, and that's what really made me want to watch. I'm really hyped now. What are they going to show in the next episodes? And also, I will say, like I did mention, that the 50s, 60s, 70s were not exactly they were before my time, and as such, I didn't really watch a lot of the sitcoms of that time, a few episodes here and there. I am interested in seeing how they'll approach the 80s, which is more near my time, the 90s, the 2000s and the 2010s, and how are they going to play out that? Because there talks that they're going to pay homage to maybe The Office, and they seem to be having a home improvement-ish type of vibe and stuff. Are they going to go mockumentary style like The Office and Parks and Rec and stuff like that? I kind of really enjoyed watching this. The stuff I loved watching the crap out of. And I'm interested how they approach that, how they bring it and weave it into this. At the same time, how they'll give us more into what's actually going on here. And I am really interested to see how this will tie into Spider-Man 3 and Doctor Strange 2. Because we know it's going to all, sort of explore the multiverse. So I am interested. I really enjoyed this episode. I enjoyed the last 2 episodes, and I think that we're finally getting there. Like I said, I do believe they should have maybe dropped the 3 episodes, but they've got their reasoning. As such, they've got me hooked. I'm excited. I'm all pumped for it. So what did you guys think? Have you watched it? Has it lost you? Are you enjoying this as much as I am? Or did it, are you still a bit on the fence about it? I have to say this is a vast departure from their general storyline. You don't know what's going to come ahead. Generally, in most MCU movies, you get the basic structure, you know what's going to happen. You have a basic idea of who the villain is, what's going on and stuff like that. But this is totally new territory, and I commend Marvel, MCU, Kevin Feige, the makers, the writers, and all for coming up with this idea. And I think the cast really, does it well, and they bring out the fact that there's something not quite right here at the same time as really leaning into the all-out feel of these various decades. And for that, I really enjoyed, and I commend the makers, creators, and all involved for what they have brought us. Now listen, while you're here, why don't you go hit that beautiful red subscribe button, hit the like button also, because it really helps me out. And don't forget to hit the bell icon so that you're notified every time I post something new. And while you're here, you can always contact me simply on Twitter at mercy_d, on Instagram at mercy_sd, or you can always visit the Funny Pajamas Facebook page simply at funny.pajamas. And we've got a website, so be sure to check it out, www.funny-pajamas.com, pajamas with a Y. And you can always contact me by email simply at mercy@funny-pajamas.com. Love to see you all here. Hoping to see you again next week. Hit me down in the comment section below. Let me know what you think. What are your theories? There are talks that maybe the villain is Mephisto, the devil sort of. And I also talks that Agnes the neighbor is maybe Agatha Harkness, who has, in the comics, I believe she's played very often as a, she sort of sides with Wanda at times, and very often she plays the antagonist. So I'm keen on seeing this. I'm also wondering how the twins will play into this. Will we see, we know Wanda has 2 twins, that is Speed and Wiccan. And I'm kind of wondering whether they'll show these kids growing up, or whether, how they work them in, what the storyline of the kids are. I do think they are going to be an important part. So here's hoping. I loved what I've got so far. I will say the first 2 episodes, I love them for what they were. This episode really got me hyped, and I am really excited for the next episode. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Love to see you. To see you again next week with the next episode. I'm hoping it's as good as this one is. Anyway, this is Mercy signing out. Bye.